At 4:37 a.m. on October 25, 1944, Lieutenant James Murphy stood on the deck of the aircraft carrier USS St. Lo, watching the horizon of the Leyte Gulf in the Philippines. The American escort fleet was sailing in a calm formation when, suddenly, something appeared that no sailor expected to see: the largest warships ever built by humanity. The Japanese super battleship Yamato and its sister ship Musashi, each 263 meters long with 460 mm guns capable of firing 1-ton shells 42 kilometers away. Beside them were 4 more heavy battleships and 8 cruisers. This was the Japanese center force, 25 warships commanded by Admiral Takeo Kurita, the most powerful armada Japan still possessed. Murphy looked at his own ship. The USS St. Lo was an escort carrier, ironically nicknamed Pickle Jar by its crew due to its thin, vulnerable hull. 6 tiny carriers, 3 destroyers, and 4 escorts stood against 25 massive warships. The math was brutal: the American fleet should have been destroyed in less than an hour. But something happened that morning that would defy all laws of naval warfare and cause 25 Japanese warships to simply vanish from history without firing half their ammunition. By October 1944, the war in the Pacific was at its most critical point. The Philippines were Japan's last line of defense before their own home waters. Losing the Philippines meant losing the war. Japanese Admiral Somu Toyoda devised a desperate plan called Operation Shogo, or Operation Victory. It was an all-out gamble: use the entire remaining Imperial Navy in a single devastating blow against the American invasion at Leyte. The plan was ingenious. 3 Japanese naval forces would converge simultaneously on the Leyte Gulf. The northern force, with 4 carriers acting as bait, would lure the powerful American carriers away. Meanwhile, the southern force and Kurita's center force would cross the San Bernardino Strait and massacre the unprotected American transport ships. It was a suicide mission disguised as brilliant strategy. Kurita told his captains before departing that there were things more important than their personal safety. On October 24, Kurita's fleet was attacked by 259 American planes. The Musashi took 19 torpedoes and 17 bombs before slowly sinking. But Kurita pushed on. At midnight on October 25, his fleet crossed the San Bernardino Strait. On the other side, completely unprotected, was Task Unit April 3, 77, nicknamed Taffy 3, 6 small escort carriers commanded by Admiral Clifton Sprague, protected only by 7 destroyers and escorts. When radar detected the Japanese fleet at 6:47 a.m., Sprague first thought it was a technical error. His pickle jars didn't have enough armor to withstand even a single 460 mm shell from the Yamato. At 6:58 a.m., the Yamato's guns opened fire. 1-ton shells cut through the sky, creating 30-meter water columns around the American carriers. Each explosion shook the ships like tin toys. Sprague took the only possible decision: run. He ordered maximum speed, 17 knots, while the Japanese battleships reached 28 knots. It was a matter of minutes. He also ordered his planes to take off immediately, armed or not. Some pilots went up with only machine guns because there was no time to load torpedoes. Then Sprague did something naval manuals called insanity. He ordered his 7 small destroyers to directly attack the 25 Japanese warships. The commander of the USS Johnston, Ernest E. Evans, a Cherokee Native American, did not hesitate. He accelerated his destroyer directly toward the Yamato. It was like a compact car attacking an 18-wheeler. The Johnston fired its torpedoes from just 9 kilometers away, a suicide range, and managed to damage the heavy cruiser Kumano. The destroyers USS Hull and USS Samuel B. Roberts followed suit, charging through the curtain of fire. The Samuel B. Roberts, so small it was nicknamed the destroyer escort that fought like a battleship, fired 608 shells in 35 minutes before being hit and starting to sink. American pilots attacked in continuous waves. Pilots out of ammunition made dry runs over the Japanese ships just to force them to maneuver and lose speed. It was coordinated chaos, a desperate dance between annihilation and survival. The USS Johnston was hit repeatedly. Its bridge was destroyed, half the crew was dead, but Evans kept shouting orders while steering the ship with only one engine working. When the Johnston finally sank at 10:10 a.m., Japanese sailors on the deck of the cruiser Tone gave a military salute to the enemy ship that had fought with such courage. But then the mystery occurred. At 9:11 a.m., when Japanese victory was mathematically inevitable, Admiral Kurita gave the most baffling order of the naval war: all forces, cease pursuit. Regroup to the north. Kurita's order left his own captains stunned. They were minutes away from annihilating the American carriers and reaching the transport ships. Why retreat when victory was within reach? Military historians have debated this decision for decades. Kurita later claimed he believed he was facing the main American fleet, not just escort carriers. But his own reports indicated otherwise. The reality was likely a combination of factors. The American resistance was far more aggressive than predicted, leading Kurita to conclude he was facing elite units. Continuous air attacks created the illusion that massive reinforcements were arriving. Furthermore, Japanese communication was chaotic. Kurita didn't know his other forces had been destroyed. Most importantly, Kurita was mentally exhausted. He had been under non-stop attack for 2 days and had watched the unsinkable Musashi be torn apart. Admiral Mato Magaki wrote in his diary that Kurita was seeing ghosts where there was only smoke. By the time Kurita reorganized and turned back toward Leyte Gulf, it was too late. The American carriers had escaped. At noon, Kurita ordered a full retreat. 25 Japanese warships simply turned around and vanished from the battlefield. The opportunity was lost, and Japan would never have another chance. The escape of Taffy 3 came at a brutal price. The USS St. Lo was hit by the war's first organized kamikaze attack and sank in 30 minutes. The Johnston, Hull, and Samuel B. Roberts went to the bottom. More than 1,500 American sailors died that morning. Commander Ernest Evans was last seen standing on the tilting deck of his ship, refusing to leave until the survivors were away. He posthumously received the Medal of Honor. Survivors spent hours or even days in the water surrounded by sharks and oil. Yet, as one sailor recalled, their first thought upon rescue was, "We won." Against all mathematical and military odds, 6 pickle jars and 7 escorts had repelled 25 warships. It became known as the finest last stand in the history of the United States Navy. Admiral William Halsey later admitted his tactical error in leaving the strait unprotected, but noted that the courage of Taffy 3 saved the invasion. For the Japanese, the retreat was catastrophic. Kurita returned to Japan in disgrace, his career finished. He spent the rest of the war haunted by the question of why he retreated. The battle off Samar broke the backbone of the Imperial Japanese Navy. It wasn't through numerical superiority, but through sheer determination. After Leyte, kamikaze attacks became official policy because Japan realized its traditional fleet could not destroy even unprotected escort carriers. The battle proved that human will could overcome mathematical certainty. In 2019, the wreckage of the USS Johnston was found 6,500 meters deep, the deepest shipwreck ever discovered at the time. Images showed the hull riddled with shell holes. The ship had taken enough punishment to sink an entire fleet but kept fighting to the end. The USS Samuel B. Roberts was found in 2022, split in half, its guns still pointed toward the Japanese fleet. Today, Samar is studied as the supreme example of leadership and courage under fire. It is taught in military academies not just as a strategy lesson, but as proof that battles are not always won by those with the biggest guns, but by those willing to point the smallest guns at impossible odds and pull the trigger anyway. The pickle jars of Taffy 3 became immortal because they refused to accept the reality of their own defeat, causing a giant to blink first and retreat into the shadows of history.